Oh, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 409 of FloWrestling Radio Live. I'm your host, Christian Piles, joined by the new crew, as the old crew still makes their way back from Nur-Sultan, Kazakhstan. To my left, David Bray. He looked entranced there, but he's back with us. Straight away, our favorite law enforcement officer, Andrew Spencer Spey. And at the very bottom, from Casa de Bratke, Kyle Bratke calling in. Kyle, what's going on? What's the situation? Why aren't you here among us?
Well, this morning I was having our child's crib delivered. The Amish hand-made it. Sugar Creek, Ohio, stand up. And they drove it down here in a trailer. And then we're here at 6:45 this morning and just finished putting it together like 20 minutes ago, so I wouldn't have been able to make it in studio in time, but I had to be on today. Wow.
So, and honestly, if within the next 10 minutes, if there's not a Twitter handle, Bracky's Amish Crib, I'm going to be furious at all of you guys collectively.
Did you have to pay them in horse feed?
Yeah, what do you pay them in? Just grain?
Yeah, that's all they accept.
Bitcoin and grain.
That or a new horse buggy.
Wow, man. Well, that's great. Congrats on the crib. I'm sure it's hey, you know it's going to be well made. It's going to stand the test of time.
It's beautiful.
Wonderful. Well, maybe you'll send us a picture because we're all excited to see it at some point. So Bracky's there, but as he said, he had to be on this show because what a show it's going to be. There's so much to get into. We have the conclusion of Worlds. When we last spoke, I believe only Dayton and Zane had wrestled. So that leaves 8 men's freestyle weights to go, and I think Adeline hadn't won at that point, or maybe it was Tamira. I think one of the women's wrestlers hadn't won Worlds at that point. So we had 3 champs on the ladies' side, Jakara, Tamira, and Adeline Gray. So huge congrats to them. Ladies finished third, as did the men. And so there's a lot to discuss with the World Championships, right? And For me, my overall thoughts on Team USA's men's freestyle performance was overall it was just a disappointing Worlds from the standpoint of we all, I think, collectively felt, and we knew, at the World every weight is good, but there was basically no shot of Jaden and Dake losing. So in our minds, it was already like that we have basically accepted that was going to happen, right? And it would only have been complete devastation and a major upset if they hadn't. So our minds were kind of made up there. And the big questions going into it were what? How does Dayton Fix stack up against these guys? How can Zane do? Can Jordan beat Sidikoff? Is Kyle ready to take out Sajalayev? Can Gwiz get on the podium again? Can Green make a run? And the answer to every question was, we had the disappointing answer, relatively speaking, right? Because Burroughs didn't beat Sidikoff. He lost in as about a gut-wrenching a way as you can lose to the same guy the same way he lost a year ago, right? Kyle hits a legend in Sharifov, and that dude was just all the way ready for Kyle, and Kyle loses to a guy that's beaten Cale Sanderson and Jaden Cox twice and Jake Herbert and won the Olympics, et cetera, et cetera. And perhaps our spidey sense should have been tingling a little bit when he beat Otakaze, who is always giving Kyle tough matches, but we lose that one. So overall, my impressions are we're right there to win like every match. I mean, Dayton was right there to beat Takahashi. Like he had it. It was right there, and just the second period didn't quite materialize. And I think you look at that for, as far as Dayton Fix is concerned, is a good learning experience for him. And we felt we were right there, and I think the matches showed and revealed that we were right there to win those matches. Same with Zane, right? Same with Tyler Graff, who gave Becca Lamtadze his closest match of the entire tournament. That guy went on to win World. So overall, all 10 weights, Downey, right? He wins 2 matches. And beats Baranowski, who's a really good wrestler. Really, he was a ranked guy coming in, a world level guy. It wasn't like he drew, Palau and Mexico back to back. He had legit dudes. So in summation, I think we've learned about Team USA. What we always felt is that we're right there, but it's the margins that are the toughest to overcome, and ultimately we're now disappointed with a third place finish for Team USA, which is even from 2014 is like such a stark contrast. But now when you win Worlds and you have the stars on this team, and we had 4 world champions on this team, right? So the expectations are going to be sky high, and when you don't hit them, you can't leave Worlds but feel like, a little bit like, man, maybe you hope for more.
There's still a lot of value in like what we know about this team. We still know almost every one of these guys is in the medal conversation every year, will be hanging around there every year. I think the thing that's different about this year compared to last year or 2017 is in both of the last 2 previous years, there was a lot that we didn't know, and the things that we found out, the things that we were hoping for kind of came to fruition in many senses. Like in 2017, we thought we can win this, but we didn't know for sure. We won it. 2018, we thought we have 2 more world champs in this roster that we've never had in Kyle Dake and David Taylor, and we found out, we were right, and we do. This year, we kind of already knew everything going in, and the question was like, how well will the team perform? Will we see top level success? And so I don't feel like we learned anything that's drastically changed my perception of who this team is, or that reduces my faith in the team. But we also didn't learn that kind of thing that we've been learning the last couple of years that made it really, really exciting to be cheering for Team USA.
And, thinking about Burroughs, that's been, I don't know. For me, I don't know why, but it's always especially tough to watch him lose and to experience that more so than any other wrestler. Maybe that's my own personal affinity towards Jordan and for Jordan makes me feel that way. But what a saga his entire tournament was. Everyone's talking about the Sidikoff match, but look at, he snatched victory from the jaws of defeat twice. That first match was a total mess. I believe he got forward, he got taken down and gutted. So he gave 2 separate 4-point sequences. One, the feet to back. Another one was a takedown to a gut, which, how many times has Jordan Burroughs been gut-wrenched? Like, one of the things that's rarely discussed about Jordan is his parterre defense, right? Like, Dake in we're going back to 2013 World Team Trials when Dake hit a feet to back for 3, kind of like a rear standing quad pod gut. Other than that, the track record for him getting turned is so small. I'm sure there maybe are examples. I feel like I've watched almost every match he's wrestled since 2011, and that's a lot. So over 100 matches, but I just don't recall this happening. So that was alarming. And then his next match, who was his next match against David? Because the first one was Nurikow, who was so dirty, who is habitually dirty, big cheating guy, but he beats him, you feel good, but you're also like, oh my gosh, this next one's going to be so difficult.
Then he had Kurmagomedov.
Yes.
Who's also excellent.
Really, really good guy.
Dagestani.
And then then his next match was kind of like not as tough, right?
Kind of. Gaziev, that's the guy that David Carr just beat in the Junior World Finals.
Yeah.
So you would say not as tough a match, but Gaziev knocked off Beksad, knocked off Demirtas, knocked off Sushil Kumar. So 3 really, Sushil obviously on the wrong side of his career, but knocked off 3 high level competitors, did Gaziev. And so I remember as we were watching his progression through the tournament, that's not a guy that you would circle and say, okay, JB better be concerned about him. But the way that he was wrestling that day, he was right up there. Right?
Yeah. I think that Jordan has a physical advantage over him that still Gajiev's not ready to overcome. And then you get to the match. He comes out. It looks good, but Sidikoff gets a takedown. He needs a takedown. And it was funny because we were saying in the room, there's no way Sidikoff's going to shoot. He immediately shoots, and Burroughs hits a beautiful go behind to go up 3-2. right?
Yep, 3-2.
And you're like, okay, here we go again. And there was maybe like, I don't know, a minute, 45 seconds to go. And the crazy thing is when you talk about Jordan, and I think why, I personally and like the wrestling community as a whole reveres Jordan so much is that during winning time, the time when matches are won, he just always raises his level. Except for this guy in this moment. Like the Godoyev loss was, he was never really in that match, right? And you think about Sargush, he was hurt. And you think about Bekzad, he just got smoked. But if it's in the margins, it's like, it's Burroughs every single time. And that's the ultimate credit to Sidakov, who has just shown over the last 2 years, he has that winning quality and then some. Maybe, I don't know if you can say better than Jordan, but against Jordan, he is certainly better at those moments. And I don't know, I can't imagine what Jordan's like, how he processed that. And do you wonder if, listen to Jordan's interview before, he said something like, there's not a day that goes by I don't think about that. So is that in the back of your mind with 30 seconds to go against this guy? Don't blow this again. Don't blow this again. Instead of doing your usual, whatever the usual thing is for Jordan, did he get outside of that? Or was this just simply a case of Sidakov has the wrestling solutions and he's able to implement them?
I don't know. I mean, it feels like Sidakov has the solutions, at least at this point. It's impossible to know what we're going to say about Sidakov in a decade, but I can't help but wonder if Sidakov's the next like great long-term Russian, right? The next guy who's gonna have 5+ titles. It feels like he's that kind of guy. I remember watching the Euro games this summer, and Sidakov was in a semifinal match. I can't remember who it was against, but it was somebody that shouldn't have been on his level, at least in my perception. And he got behind, he was losing, and I thought, great, Sidakov's going to take a loss here, and maybe he isn't as good as I was afraid he was. And he did the same thing. He was able to come back in that match and score late, and Burroughs has been able to do that for his whole career. And, if you have another guy in Sidakov who's doing the same thing at that same weight, it's going to be fireworks if they meet again, but also makes you wonder about this guy's legacy long term. It feels like he has the ability to go out and get a point when it shouldn't be possible for him to get a point.
Give me something, Bracky.
Yeah, he has 2 years in a row, Burroughs. And it's something that and I think that's why we take it so hard, is we're not used to seeing it, because it's usually the other way around. We're usually the ones breaking other people's hearts in those last couple seconds. But man, he just feels, when Jordan wrestles him, there's something different there. He's got something that, and I don't even know exactly what it is, but he's got something that kind of neutralizes Jordan, and he obviously feels very confident that he can win the match late like that, to be shooting with 40 some seconds left.
Yeah, that's a good point too, and it makes me wonder. We saw we lost matches late. The United States did, right? Jordan did. James Green did. Dayton lost his match late. There may be another I'm forgetting. That may be it. There's not many.
I think that was it. Guez was in it late and gave up a go behind, but he was still losing at the time. That was one of the biggest takeaways for me, is I don't think we've ever seen us lose this many matches late. James was in the final 7 seconds. Dayton was in the final 15. Jordan was in literally the last second. It was. I think that was also what was most disheartening about it, is all these. We were so close, and then just these heartbreaking losses.
Now, do you wonder? Is it training? Is it just a coincidence that it happened to these three guys? Is it something? Is it just the international guys are just more savvy? What is it? Is it anything?
One thing I would say is that it's fair to be disappointed with these results, and it's good that we're disappointed that guys are losing to the best in the world. But we shouldn't really update our priors too much to the negative after watching this tournament, because Pat Downey overperformed. Baranowski is definitely a dude. He beat Karugliev, who was Russia's rep last year. And then the guys that lost to guys that were at least comparable. I mean, whether you think it was an upset or not kind of depends on your opinion of their guys. But Hadziev, the Polish Dagestani that James was beating, went on a blitz and beat everybody on the way to the finals. Everybody was a medalist that Hadziev beat there. Ganzorik, Batirov, all medalists, and then Yakubishvili is a gold medalist. And Mehebi, for as much as the Iranian fans were trashing him, he's actually good for international heavyweight. He beat Deng, who is a medalist and a legit medalist, the
also
Chinese
beat
heavyweight.
Quiz twice.
And Deng did. And so if you just go up and down, it's definitely fair to be disappointed, especially the way they lost in the last couple seconds or the last, giving up leads at the end there. But overall, it's still a real salty team. There's depth in the American ladders. So there's still plenty to be pumped for going into this Olympic year.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, yeah, that's a great point that we're losing to really good guys up and down the lineup. And so that's, I guess, a consolation, but still.
I do feel like they are more savvy than us, though. We struggle to wrestle with leads at times. See it with James Green at Worlds previously. You've seen it with Dayton at age level Worlds previously. It's tough to wrestle against those really high level guys with the lead, and it's something, I don't know, you've got to figure out. And we used to point to Jordan all the time as the guy who executed it perfectly. And now it seems Sidakov seems to have figured that out. But I think there is some to the fact that these guys are more savvy than us internationally.
I think there's something where these international guys, they always have something. They have a thing they haven't shown. They have something in their back pocket that they don't reveal until it comes that time. Whereas, in folk style and in just American wrestling, I think you're kind of doing your thing the whole time, right? And maybe there's something like that. I mean, you watch the Dayton Takahashi match. That's a tale of two periods, right? First period, it's like Dayton. He's all over the guy. He somehow gets put on the clock, which that's another topic for another day. That if you can explain to me why Dayton Fix got put on the shot clock, I would learn a lot, because that made no sense to me whatsoever. The second period comes, Dayton bull rushes him for two, and then at that moment, it all kind of switched, and it felt like we were on the defensive. Now, whether that doesn't necessarily mean that Dayton Fix was being defensive. It means Takahashi maybe, perhaps, flipped something and completely wrestled differently and had Dayton kind of on the ropes in a way that maybe like, whoa, 3 minutes ago it wasn't like this at all. And I mean, Takahashi's a world champion. He beat Thomas Gilman in the world finals. He's really outstanding. So I mean, is it something like that? They just tactically, it's not just tactically laid, it's maybe something even more beyond that philosophically that we're not ready for. And did Sidakov reveal, did he do something that Jordan hadn't felt that entire match? And did same for James Green. Like, James was able to keep him off his legs for most of that match, and then the closing, I don't think you lose your positional discipline. I think you're maybe getting shown something that they hadn't shown that whole time. I don't know what it is, and I'm certainly not the one to diagnose. All I can do is speculate as to why it's happening, but it is something that I think moving into the Olympic year, we're going to have to adjust, and we're going to have to close out matches, because if we have the lead in a match, you almost always feel great about it as an American, right?
Yeah. I mean, the 1 point lead is barely a lead.
Yeah.
That's a situation Burroughs has been in with Sidakov the last 2 years. If all Sidakov needs is 1 point on a step out, he has so many options. I mean, he got into that single, and first of all, we don't normally see Burroughs all the way extended, like sprawled out. Normally he's sprawl reattack. He's able to get right there, but Sidakov was able to get deep enough on a leg that he forced Burroughs to kind of try to stay in that position where he stays grounded and gets out. But if you're trying to stay grounded, you're not nearly as mobile as you would be. But if you're more mobile, it's easier to get pushed out. I mean, it just gets so complicated when it's a 1-point lead. And I think that's partly what makes criteria so exciting, but that's really tough. I mean, I think the 1-point lead is never enough. And it almost feels like if we have that 1-point lead, we can't call that a lead almost, you know?
Yeah. The more I watch wrestling, sorry, Bracky, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say to your point, and I know I talked about this with Mike Mao. We were watching one of the Russians match, and they hadn't really, I forget which one it was, but he hadn't done much the whole match. He gets taken down to start losing, and then immediately gets a takedown and scores to take the lead. It's like these guys, they can almost score when they want to, and they only turn it on when they need to at times. And I'm not sure we have that. Like, our guys can't just turn it on and score just like that. And I think some of these international guys, they can, and like you were saying, they have something you haven't seen before, ready to go at the end of a match.
Yeah, that it's clear they do. And what I was just gonna say, not super related, but talking about just leads and stuff. The more I watch international wrestling, the more I love criteria. I can't believe it. Yeah. I hated it. I hated it so much. I was like, this makes no sense. Ties, there's no one winning if someone has the same number of points. But now I'm like, I love it. It's someone is always losing at all times. It's great. I don't think it's like a really good template for every sport, but I like it in this scenario. The one thing I don't like about it, which doesn't impact me because I know criteria really well, but like a casual fan learning criteria is not that not that simple. It is simple, but like it takes a while before it's like exactly. All right, if he gets 2 and 2, or if he needs a 4 or a 1 and he's still losing, that does take a little bit of time. Yeah. But I mean, we've seen literally Olympic level athletes not know it. So therefore, it would stand to reason when Olympic medalists don't know it that potentially a casual fan won't know it, right? So that is a bad thing about it. But I'm just talking personally for me, as I view it, I find it very exciting, and those are the only people I'm speaking for.
Criteria is superior. Everybody knows this now. It does make every match more exciting at the end. There's no wait until this extra period, so no one's incentivized to just shut it down. Everybody's incentivized to go get that win because somebody is going to be losing. I do agree they should switch to first score is the only criteria, especially when there's shot clock now, because then it encourages people to not get put on the clock even more. Get that first criteria, and then they do a good job now lighting up the box or putting a line under it, whatever, and that should be the easiest thing. And then once one guy gets criteria, that's it for the match, and we're done. But yeah,
first score.
Welcome to
first score
criteria side.
First score, okay.
It's so hard. There are matches where the way criteria is set up, like a 4-point move, there are matches where the 4-point move feels like it should be the dominant criteria. But then there are other matches where somebody gets a 4-point move and then the other guy is attacking nonstop the whole time. Maybe he gets four step outs. Maybe 2 of those were close to a takedown, and that guy's been working like crazy the entire match, and it feels like that guy should, he deserves it. He should win. Maybe this guy got a garbage 4 at the beginning of the match. And so I feel like there are times when the current criteria makes sense, and then there are other times where if you're watching it, scoring it as if you were an MMA ref or something, you would totally say the other guy's like putting out way more effort. He's pushing the pace a lot more and doing these even like technical skills more proficiently. But I don't know.
One thing I do get is when people say, oh, wouldn't we want another minute of these awesome guys wrestling? Wouldn't you want to see Sidikov and Burroughs wrestle for another minute?
No.
And it's like, obviously we would want to watch these guys wrestle all day a million times, and the answer to that is not change criteria rules, but just watch more wrestling. There's plenty more to watch, and if you want awesome wrestling, it's there. I know.
I would not trade the 1 minute of overtime for 5 minutes of passivity. Right.
100%.
Yeah. I do have issues with the criteria itself because, as you guys are saying, who's to say why is having 1-4 superior to 2 takedowns or 4 step outs? I don't think either.
You often work harder for those points than sometimes the 2 or the 4 or whatever it was.
Yeah. So there's nothing really that says that it requires more skill to do something consistently or one thing one time. But that's a little tie right there. Okay. So
love it.
so many dominoes in effect. All right, so Dake wins. Jaden wins. All right, non-Olympic weight. So a lot of things happened when Kyle Dake won. I think it was like, all right, this is Dake's spot. He's going to come down. He's going to take it from Burroughs. And he might. He certainly could. I'd say it's, for me, with Jordan sitting out and having that advantage, I'd say it's probably 51-49 Jordan, how I see it right now. Slight advantage to him because he's sitting out. But here's some things I think we're not, as we prognosticate and consider, who's going to win that match. Let's look at the facts, okay? Is Kyle Dake back-to-back the reigning world champion twice? Yes, that is factually correct. But here's some things we're not factoring in. The strength of the weights in comparatively, right? One guy is wrestling at an Olympic weight that has Sidakov, Chamizo, and a bevy of other really, really good guys. It's maybe the toughest weight class in the world. I think 65 may have that distinction right now, but 74 is up there. Dake, his competition has been relatively weaker at the world competitions. I think that's inarguable. Okay, so that's one thing. So while Dake is winning and Jordan is not, this is not close to an apples-to-apples comparison in terms of the fields they have to navigate. Item one. Item two is the thing that people are discussing is Jordan's, and I talked about this a little bit on Twitter, and I think it got a little misconstrued. Certainly, I know that as Jordan gets older, at some point, he's going to get worse at wrestling, right? That is not lost on me. But we're not talking about over till he's 40. I'm talking about 1 year. I'm talking about actually 6 months from now when the Olympic trials are. And what I saw year over year from Jordan, where's the regression? In what area? Because Sidakov is a younger champion, and he basically lost the same way. He was winning with 1 second to go. So Sidakov has not widened the gap on him. Sidakov's the gold standard for that weight right now. He hasn't widened the gap. And in fact, Jordan Burroughs, against another younger champion, Frank Chamizo, has widened the gap on him. From losing to him a little over a year ago to beating him 9-2 this year. So, to me, while Jordan's results are not, the standard for Jordan is gold, right? He's 5-time world and Olympic champion. But he's not, tell me from 2017, when Jordan beat Dake, what we have seen from either guy that says this is drastically different, right? Because Dake has gone and won worlds, but he's had losses. He lost to Gaji Magomedov. He's had moments, and he's winning a weight where it is not as inspirational. It's not as skilled. It's not as good. That's not arguable. That's a fact, right? And Jordan's not winning, but he's been right there, and he won in 2017. I just don't think we've seen the drop-off that some people are maybe expecting. And it'll eventually happen to Jordan. But I don't think in 6 months he's going to be much different than he was in 2017. If you can, someone make a case for how Jordan Burroughs has regressed from 2017 to right now. I'm ready. I'm all ears. I'm ready to hear it. But for right now, I think those two are exactly where they were in 2017. It's going to be incredibly close. It's going to come down to probably 3 matches again. And I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I'm not sure. I think it's razor thin.
I mean, I think the case people would make about regression would just be the closing out matches case. And I think it's easy to, the argument against that is right. You've got Sidakov, who maybe is just doing this thing better than anybody we've ever seen. But I think that's the case. But it's not a super strong case, I think. For me, my perception of Kyle Dake last year, 2018, after he stomped Gaji Magomedov,
right,
was where my perception of Kyle Dake went from he's really, really good to like, wow, maybe he can beat Burroughs. But this year at Worlds, while Dake looked super solid and dominant, and it looked like next to impossible for anybody to score on him, although he did give up a few points, he didn't look otherworldly the way that I thought of him in 2018. I don't know that he was otherworldly last year or just had a really great match and got on a run against Gaji Magomedov, but I don't feel as I don't feel like Dake is as transcendent as I perceived him to be last year, even though still really, really good. And I think that point about the field that Dake has competed against is not the same one that Burroughs is competing against. So I'm super excited, more excited than ever for that matchup. And I think, we are going to see it, right? There's no way Dake goes up.
Well, it's funny. So he says, so Bader's like, I got to ask next year, 2020. And Dake says, I think you know. Which to me, I think says 74. But let me just, Kyle, why we're asking is 4 years ago, you went up to 86 because Jordan Burroughs was sitting out and no one was sitting out at 86. And you went there, right? The exact same scenario is going to happen this year at State College, Pennsylvania. Jordan Burroughs is going to sit out to the finals. There's no one sitting out at 86. So that's why we're asking. And so while you think we know, I do think he is going down, but I thought he was going down this year. And I know the knee thing and everything like that. But, I'm sure he is. I'm sure he's going down. But at the same time, it's the exact same scenario as 2016, right? What's different?
Couple things. One, well, if Jaden goes down to 86, won't he be sitting to the semis? I know it's not the finals,
and
but
Kyle's in the semis of either weight as well.
Yeah. So,
okay. So then, but don't you think people think that Dake has closed the gap because of what they saw Imar do to Burroughs?
Mm-hmm.
And they think, probably rightfully so, that Dake is obviously better than Imar. So if Imar pushed Jordan Burroughs this close, Dake is surely going to have a shot.
That's a great point. I think for sure. Jordan, and maybe this is just me making excuses, but Jordan's like, I didn't wrestle well there. I think the weight thing really messed with him, how that whole scenario played out with him sort of missing weight for a little bit there and then whatever happened at the end. And I think that was something, and I don't know. And then at the end, Imar had nothing left for him too. People forget that was like a really dominant last match. But yeah, he could have won match 1 and then he did win match 2, so it could have happened. And yeah. But I give some credit there to Imar, not to just go back, but because Dake did destroy Imar back in 2017. But I think Imar has jumped some levels too. I give a little. He's a little bit better, right? And Dake's probably a little bit better, and maybe Jordan has declined some, right? He could, just very little bit. I believe that's possible, but it's still very, very within the margins. But that's a really good point, Kyle.
It makes me wonder if there's any waiting on Kyle Dake's part to find out what Jaden does. I know Kyle Dake, will take on all comers, right? But Jaden's been the guy that no one at 86 can beat, and now it feels like there's been conversation. But it felt like before this tournament, Jaden was going 86. That was just what we had heard.
Yeah.
And now he's saying things like, Sadulayev, what if I could beat Sadulayev, that'd be a huge part of like building my legacy. If I could beat Yazdani Chirati at 86, that'd be part of my legacy. Maybe I'll let the fans decide. He's saying things like that, so it does feel a little more up in the air, and it makes me wonder would Dake consider going up since nobody's sitting at that weight class. It's an interesting thought experiment to at least kick around. One thing that makes 74 tougher is obviously Burroughs is sitting in the finals. One thing that could make Kyle Dake's entire year different if he does go 86 is the weight's not qualified, and who's going to do that, and who are we sending where and when, and does that impact things? I don't know. I'm curious about how Jaden Cox fits into all this.
Yeah. The thing with Jaden, well, also, is it not the most Jaden thing ever to crowdsource his Olympic weight decision? He's like, maybe I'll put it to the fans. I don't know. Let's see what you think. But there's no question if you're just strictly going to make a decision on legacy, 97 is the legacy definer. Yep. Yazdani Chirati, first of all, you've beaten David Taylor. David Taylor owns Yazdani Chirati. Transitive property, you can say, okay, did the 86 thing. You go up and you beat the 3-time world and Olympic champion with Kyle, and then you go up and you beat the pound for pound undisputed number one guy in the world. The guy who has basically had, to my knowledge, 2 close matches in his senior level career.
Yeah.
Every match you watch, he's never in danger. Guys can't even get to this dude. Guys can't score on him. And he scores when he needs to almost every time. I mean, he's the most excellent / boring champion we have. It's just like there's no real, like with Burroughs and Jaden Cox, there's like some, things happen there. But he's such a, really, I don't want to say a perfect wrestler, but just like as far as spotting blemishes, it's really, really hard to do. He's so excellent. So I think Jaden should go up. I don't, and here's why. And I went into a little on Twitter as well, but this guy is so, how are you going to suck down this guy who is just this bundle of energy and movement and fluidity, knowing that you don't know how he's going to, Jaden Cox is never, I mean, when's the last time he weighed 189.5 pounds and had to compete 2 hours later? The answer is like, I have no idea. He was like, we're going back to high school when he ever wrestled that light. We have no idea what's going to happen with him weighing in that late. And why would you, to me, if I'm Jaden, it's like, why would I let kind of an uncontrollable element determine my fate where I'm just going to have to wonder how my body recovers? When in 2017, when he didn't win Worlds, the weight was a huge part. He talked about how much of a issue the weight was for him. That was day before weigh-ins, right? And I don't understand. I don't understand why you would go down and risk it. And I don't think like, okay, wow, David Taylor's really good. I don't want to go to that weight, or Kyle Snyder. I don't think that's how Jay necessarily thinks. But you're right. It does seem like 86 is where he's going to go. I just don't think it's worth the risk, right?
Yeah, and if we're talking legacy,
go ahead, Kyle.
Sorry, Spay. Go ahead. If we're talking legacy, Snyder's the guy he hasn't beaten. He's beaten David Taylor, and if Dake goes up, he's beaten Kyle Dake. And then what if, I don't think this is going to happen, what if Kyle Snyder was like, I'm going to go straight bulk job and go up to heavy?
Ooh.
I've seen that question floating around. To me, it doesn't.
I don't
feel
think
like
he's going to do it.
He said in an interview that he walks around at 200 or 201 kilos, or 200. He walks around
about 440.
He walks around at like.
It's a heck of a cut, but you got to credit the guy's toughness.
He cuts down. He does the Chris Taylor. He said he walks around at like 100 to 101 kilos, so 3 to 4 kilos over the weight class. 125 kilos. Those guys are every bit of that weight class, especially the guys at the top. And
yeah, Taha.
Ask
you
yourself
see the
this.
Pictures of him and Taha Ghul standing next to each other. Kyle does not look like heavyweight.
How much bigger could Kyle Snyder get?
Yeah,
the guy's like, I mean, he is a monster in every way. I can't imagine. And also, here's why I don't think it's a good idea. One, Taha beats Kyle soundly, right? They've trained together. It's not Taha's the guy there. Taha is not the number one guy in the world, even though he's right there. So I don't think he'd be as good. I think Kyle's best opportunity to be a world Olympic champion is at 97. 1. 2, he's a powerful wrestler. He uses his strength and that will be nullified somewhat going against larger individuals, right? You're going against Gino and Taha. And while the weight is not as deep as 97, not even close, I'm certain he would medal. But when you consider that's not his standard, he's going to want to win. I just don't think it would be a smart decision. And I don't think losing to Sharifov, if you say, better change weights. I think he's a 97, and he's certainly not going to move up to make Team USA better. That's like an insane thing to think. It's not a duel. It's not a good council duel where you bump up to heavyweight. This is your personal legacy, right? Shout out Good Counsel. Thank you for letting Kyle Snyder go to your school.
And good. I'm glad you brought up how good Sharifov is. He's a legend. There's no shame in losing anybody. I mean, he took down Cael Sanderson. His hit list is pretty insane when you go through the number of guys he's taken down. He's beaten over basically a decade. And one theory I wanted to throw out that I've heard, and this is just from the Iranian fan perspective, but they know that David Taylor is going to push Yazdani past his peak, and that is Yazdani's bread and butter, is just outworking everybody in the pace. And David Taylor's the only guy in the world who can do it. And they've seen that Jaden Cox can beat David Taylor, so they say, Jaden, please move down, beat David Taylor, and then give Yazdani Tiradi a shot, because they think if Jaden sucks down that much, then maybe Yazdani's pace will get to him. But just a theory that they put out there, but I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I have no idea how that match goes. I mean, I'll take Jaden because Jaden, but that's such a weird style matchup. It's like, is he going to be able to get to his underhooks and steamroll? I mean, Yazdani Tiradi is freaking phenomenal.
Yeah, after our last episode, I was thinking with great regret about how I didn't list Yazdani Tiradi as my favorite international guy to watch.
Oh, really?
Oh, he's so fun.
He smashes everybody.
He kills everybody.
He made Nifanov look silly in the scramble where he pinned him.
How about we just set up a round robin with Yazdani Tiradi, Jaden, David Taylor, Kyle Schneider, Sadulayev. Maybe we just get those
Throw
guys.
Sharifov in there. Why not? Let's have fun.
Let's get Sharifov, make it an even 6.
And Kale.
And Kale.
Make it a baker's half dozen.
Yoel Romero.
Yeah.
No. All right. So that's Dake. Don't know where Jaden's going. I think if we crowdsourced it, I think it would say 97.
You want me to put a poll up?
Should we put a poll up?
Yes.
That would be some data for. Yeah, you have to say like.
Take that for data.
Yeah, you have to say which way is he going to go. 86 parentheses DT / Yazdani Tiradi, 97 Schneider / Sadulayev / Sharifov / Kale / Yoel Romero.
Yes.
So that's Sum of Worlds. Any other things pressing?
Well, you got your Michigan shirt on, celebrating the success of the Cliff Keen Wrestling Club, and I cannot help but think about how the Worlds played out for those Cliff Keen athletes. I remember back in 2015, after NCAA's, when David Habit announced that he was going to wrestle for Slovenia and train at Michigan, and it felt a little bit. I mean, no disrespect, but a little bit like a kind of a novel way for a guy to get on a team, because Habit hadn't wrestled much freestyle at that point, did not have really much of a shot to make the U.S. team at 65. It was such a deep weight, always has been. So he does that, and then in subsequent years, there's been like a new Michigan guy who's wrestling for a different country, and I know many debates about whether that's the right thing to do have happened on this show.
Yeah.
But whether or not it's the right thing to do, whether or not it's like the ethical thing to do, whether or not U.S. resources should be supporting athletes who are representing other countries, you have to ask if Michigan's found a secret that other clubs haven't, right? You look at the RTCs around the U.S., and right now, Nebraska has an athlete who's qualified one spot for the Olympics, and that athlete's Jordan Burroughs, and we just talked about, has no cakewalk to even make the Olympic team.
Yeah.
97 kilos, Ohio Regional Training Center. Kyle Schneider has qualified the weight class for the U.S. And if Jaden goes up, no cakewalk for Kyle Schneider to make the Olympic team. Meanwhile, Michigan, the Cliff Keen Wrestling Club, has 57 kilos qualified. And unless Serbia somehow pulls Yaguev or something in, Stevan Micic is the guy, right? He's an Olympian already. Yeah. 86 kilos, that weight class is qualified for San Marino. Miles Amin is the guy at that weight class. So San Marino. They
you could take the entire population of San Marino and line them up, and Amin would just beat them all one by one.
We could do
literally every single citizen.
We could do a shark bait drill with all of San Marino, and Miles Amin still
both citizens.
I just wish I was in San Marino this weekend so
King
I
of
could
the
party
mat
with the locals that saw that they had an Olympian. Must have been wild.
Yeah. So
what? I mean, whether or not it's the right thing to do, if you think about the rule exists, right? The rule allows for that. So Michigan has done that. Cliff Keen Wrestling Club has done that. They've taken advantage of that rule, and now they've capitalized on it. And if you're a University of Michigan wrestling fan, or if you're a Cliff Keen Wrestling Club fan, I I have to think you're excited. I have to think that you're really proud that two guys who are still attending the University of Michigan, who are still wrestling there, are going to have their opportunity at the Olympics. I mean, that's not easy to do. 16 guys at each weight, that's a tough thing to do. So I don't know. I just can't stop thinking about how that's played out. And I don't know.
Well, obviously I had my period of time where I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I was bringing it up once a show. So basically the way this played out proves my point. These guys, my entire point has been this. These guys are good. They're Americans, and I want them to help America, right? Theoretically, maybe not theoretically at this point, if they had represented America, America would have 2 more weight classes qualified for the Olympic Games, right? Stefan Micic could have wrestled for America, right? He chose not to. Now we don't have 57 qualified. Miles Amin, it stands to reason he would have won the weight for our trials, and we saw what he did, and he did not. His draw was insane.
Miles Amin wrestled well.
He like Miles is clearly internationally legit. My point exactly. I want these guys wrestling for America because they're Americans, right? And also, what kind of resources is San Marino giving to wrestling as a whole? Because I know what America is giving, right? I know what these coaches are giving. I know what that ecosystem has given. Yeah, but they get the benefit of Miles Amin's hard work that has been done in an American wrestling system. That doesn't make sense to me. And also, to your point, does it show the blueprint? Of course it does. Also my issue. Because now, all right, well, they did the San Marino thing. America's a melting pot, right? Everyone has descendants from elsewhere. So where does, man, I got to beat Burroughs to make the Olympics? All right, well, let me do some digging, some paperwork, see where I can wrestle. I don't like that. Maybe it's too idealistic. Maybe it's time for me to just get over this completely. But to me, when I see Serbia and San Marino represented by Americans, it's still not easy. I cheer for those guys when they're not wrestling. I'm happy for Stefan Micic and Miles Amin. I wanted Miles to medal. I wanted Stefan to make the finals, and I'd hope that it would have been Dayton waiting for him there. I can believe that and feel that, and I do, while still thinking this is kind of garbage. This is not good.
I mean, I see that from the perspective of USA Wrestling, and as an American fan, I see that 100%. And I want the best version of Team USA. But if the rule exists and you're Sean Bourmet, are you successful as a coach? Are you more successful as a coach if you qualify 2 guys for the Olympics for different countries, or if you qualify no guys for Team USA? Mm-hmm. And so I think that's kind of the dilemma that maybe some of these coaches, well, Bourmet for sure, and maybe other coaches are going to find themselves in as this rule continues to remain the way that it is. It's like, how am I investing the resources that our donors are putting into this club? What's the end goal? And I think maybe those goals are a little bit opposed in some senses. I mean, Stefan Micic, as good as he is, like, so much harder to make the team, right? And so I don't know. I can see it from the perspective of these coaches that if you're a donor to Michigan, I think you're probably getting at your checkbook this week, right? Like, seeing that performance from those 2 guys, and I don't know. It feels like a good win for the Michigan program.
I think fans are going to have to. Was that Kyle again?
No, go ahead, buddy.
Oops, sorry. I think from a fan perspective, everyone's going to have to come to terms with it on their own level. I mean, I don't think there's a right or wrong, and I'm kind of agnostic about it. And maybe that's just a diplomatic answer, but I can totally see CP your side, and I can see other people saying let the guys do whatever they want. I think USA Wrestling are the ones that really need to take a hard look upon. Yeah. How they treat those athletes in the clubs and the environment that they're creating, and whether they want to keep, using resources and share them with everyone, and how they go about it. That's a USA Wrestling issue. I'm glad I don't have to go through that. And I also think it's interesting. I want to point out that Miles Amin is number 2 at 174 pounds in America folk style NCAA, and is top 10, probably like around 6 or so at 189 pounds in the world, and has beaten the number ones. He's beaten Shabanov, who's a medalist. Takatani's a medalist. Baranovsky, Gostiev, Tori Blanca's a medalist. Dudarov, those are all guys that have either won medals or are really solid guys. And that's just in the last 2 tournaments, Euro Games and Worlds. So that also bodes well for the fact that we still have Mark Hall and Zahi Valencia and all these other young guys coming through the pipeline. So yeah, that's fans, you make up your minds, and then USA Wrestling, that's their conundrum.
You're absolutely right. It comes down to the rule that's in place from USA Wrestling. And I kind of do wonder, like, we were looking at the RTC guidelines this morning on USA Wrestling's website, and there is a stipulation that RTC athletes are supposed to be members of USA Wrestling. They're supposed to have a USA Wrestling card, so I don't really know how that works.
Maybe they have dual card citizenship.
Dual wrestling card citizenship. So that's a little bit challenging. But I think if the rule exists, if you want to call it a loophole, if the loophole exists, the coaches are not using it. I mean, are they doing their job? I mean, it's a way different example, much lower stakes. It's like the challenging a hands to the face call. Everybody hates it. Nobody wants to see any coach do it. No coach wants to do it. But if you see a hands to the face call and you can get the point and it's a close match and you don't throw the challenge cube, are you doing your job as a coach? And I wonder if some coaches think about this the same way.
That's why I don't villainize Michigan for doing this. They just happen to be the ones that have taken the bull by the horns in this initiative, right?
Yeah.
That's why I think broadly, it's incumbent upon USA Wrestling to do something about it, right? Or I don't know, but I've never blamed them. I've never blamed Stevan for making that choice. My only thought was I would prefer that Americans wrestled for America, and they are Americans. That's it. That's where I stand, and I don't know what else to talk about. With that, but obviously we're behind Michigan. We're behind Cliff King Wrestling Club, but deep down, it's out of jealousy. This is coming from a place of jealousy. I'm jealous that they're not representing the United States of America. Okay? Yeah. You left me, baby. It hurts. It hurts. Come back. That's what it's all about. Okay. Russia won 9 medals.
Yo.
I think we can leave it at that. They're pretty good. They've been practicing. They've been putting in the work. I think you can't deny that. But I tell you, hey, we won the Olympics in 2016. People forget that, but we did. And I think we can win it in 2020. Because I think actually the paring down in the field actually helps us a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think our team's going to be better next year, whether it has the same guys on it or different guys. I think we're going to be better. We're going to be in the mix. But, man, they are nothing if not the gold standard for wrestling right now.
They still do have one unqualified weight for the Olympics, and heavyweight's not going to be a shoo-in, for them to qualify.
They're in the same boat as Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
They both only have to qualify heavyweight.
Mm-hmm.
I wish Russian Nationals was earlier so that we could see everybody move to the different weights and where the non-Olympic guys stack up, like where Haji Magomedov.
You're saying that like we all know when Russian Nationals is, Spay.
Well, I'm guessing it's not at the same time. It's not going to be like in December. We're going to know when all the U.S. guys have moved around and where they're going, because that's the big Olympic team trials qualifying tournament that's going to happen right around Christmas time. Russia does not have that same trials process. They just have Russian Nationals, and then the coach picks the team or has them wrestle off even further or whatever, and it's usually much closer to the actual event. So, yes, nobody knows exactly when Russian Nationals are.
I thought you did know. I wouldn't have surprised me if you knew.
I've been trawling the international IG posts, but nothing's come up yet. But I do want to see. It would be awesome to see where they all shake out that point. I also want to know if Makov is coming back at heavyweight, because he wrestled like.
What if he did?
He wrestled in Poland. He wrestled 3 matches and then withdrew, and then did not. And they still sent Hugayev out there, who's like probably number 3 if you count Makov and Hizriev on the Russian ladder.
Did Makov wrestle in 2016 Olympics?
I think. Yes.
Yeah, he did. He did
he do both styles?
No.
Why not?
Not in Greco.
All right.
He definitely double bronzed at
In 15.
in 15. Straight Adam Kuhn, but on the senior level world status. Very
Not bad.
impressive.
Robbie Smith should have won that match.
Robbie got hosed. That was
Yeah.
a leg foul.
He got hosed.
It was
One of the
bad.
greatest Greco-Roman
broke
matches
him.
of all time.
It was. It was peak. Yeah.
He completely broke him.
He really broke him in a Greco match, which is really
Yeah.
it's hard to do that. Robbie Smith officially broke Makov in a Greco-Roman match. He had nothing left. And it was awesome because I'm pretty sure they not interview Robbie after he lost that match? And
Yes.
he got the crowd so fired up and he's talking about how he broke. That was sick.
Yeah, people were cheering for Robbie Smith after that match, like standing over.
It was
the guy that
literally
lost.
like Rocky. Which one was Drago 4?
4.
Yeah,
4.
Rocky 4. Like the whole crowd.
Yeah, wow, he could have. Man,
Robbie Smith's awesome. Okay. Well, there's a lot we could get into. NCAA rankings dropped. They're out. We expanded it to 25. Which
You're welcome.
Which is going to here's my prediction. The emails we get are already pretty insane. But now as you expand it to 25 and these guys from about 15 to 25, depending on the weight, are so incestuous, is that the word? They're just all beating each other.
Yeah, circular wins all over the place.
Yeah,
Like
so you could
ABB,
literally
BBC,
justify
CBT.
you could make a case, well, I beat 14. Well, you lost to 30, 31, 32, 33, and 34. And you could do that forever. So I think we're going to get some amazing emails out of this.
Yeah, I'm not unsympathetic to the people that say, hey, why isn't this guy ranked? And then you look at his resume and you go, there's an argument, but there's also an argument why he shouldn't be ranked. And I would like to also just request that if you are going to question the rankings or write an email and ask about them, we encourage that and we welcome it. That's why we put our emails and Twitter and all that on there. But please give me the full case, because I'm not going to then research and tell you exactly why a guy isn't ranked. There just wouldn't be any time to do anything else. So please say he beat these guys and only lost to these guys. Look at best wins and and worst losses at the very least.
Who you beat,
if you really want
beat
to
you.
get a response. Otherwise, it's going to be hey, we looked at his resumes and that's the best we could do. Sorry.
seems like most weights, like 15 through 30, it's like the back half of a Mario Kart race. We got people slipping on banana peels and falling
exactly
off
how
cliffs
I
and
look
get
at it.
stuck in the mud, and you just
And you hope for that lightning bolt or a bullet or one
You
of
hope
those
for the
things.
bullet and
yeah,
just-
to just zoom
You need the
forward.
bullet.
Yeah.
If you don't get his name's Caleb, educate me. His name's Bullet Bill.
Oh.
All right.
I'm familiar. That's his name. He has a name, and it's Bill. So don't just call
more
him
you
the
know.
Bullet. Very offensive.
Yeah.
Bullet Bill. He has a name.
Also, if you are writing in with an email, please use all caps and call us very vulgar names if you want it to get read.
Ad hominems
Yes.
go a long way
Yeah.
into getting a good response.
Anytime there's a caps lock email title, I can't click it fast enough. I'm like, oh, this could be a fun ride. I still stand by that we should somewhat screen it somewhat, but we should post the ridiculous emails, Willie especially, because I mean, as bad as college fans / the people that aren't fans that send us emails, the high school is another level. But I stand by that. So, hey, that's your warning. Now, obviously, FRL listeners wouldn't send emails like that. You guys are the 1% of 1% of wrestling fans. So you guys know the deal. But these people, you're warned. You send us an email, it could end up front page news. And we'll maybe black out some of the particulars, but yeah, it could happen. You never know what decisions we'll make. So can't wait for those. Maybe we can. It's Tuesday, so maybe Thursday we can dive more into the weights. We wanted to do 165 tiers. You still want to do that, guys?
Sure.
Break it down.
Well,
Okay.
I'm here to defend them this time.
Yeah.
we go.
Instead of laying down immediately.
Buckling like a belt. Look, I wasn't. It was in the midst of Worlds, and I just started getting on the Nurseltown time, and yeah, I was a little bit low energy.
I can't wait till we get to this tier 6.
Oh my gosh. No, I won't read a single name. Tier 1, I think, was nailed. Vincenzo Joseph and Alex Marinelli.
Also, tier 0, Mekhi Lewis.
Tier 0.
He is tier 0. I don't know what that could possibly mean, but
It means he's Olympic redshirting, but we got another shout out for
for
my man
Mekhi Lewis, the pride of New Jersey and Andrew Spay's fantasy team last year.
Also, yes.
That I beat by 1/2 of a point.
1/2 a point.
1/2 of a point.
More importantly, though, I stuck by my guys throughout all the constant negativity and downgrading and bullying behavior, frankly, about my team that I had to endure. And I stuck by them, and it paid off. There were many All-Americans.
Did it pay off? You didn't win.
It paid off in that it showed you that you were completely wrong to be denigrating my team the entire season. But anyway, that was the most important part. Regardless of who won at the end, it's all a good, fun time with pals.
Okay. All right,
pal. So wait.
All right, tier 1.
We're just saying tier 1 is only Joseph and Marinelli?
Mm-hmm. How do you respond?
Even though David McFadden has literally beaten Alex Marinelli before, and is coming back down to the weight where he's had his best NCAA finishes at. Evan Wick has had these extremely razor-thin matches with Alex Marinelli. I don't think we've seen him wrestle Vincenzo, but I think there's definitely
I think there is some NCAA bylaw that prevents those two from wrestling.
Yeah,
I mean, don't you think there's an argument there though for those two to be tier 1?
How do you respond to that? Because I don't know. I agree, especially McFadden. My thing is, this could be completely unfounded. Well, one, Marinelli really has kind of owned Wick recently, right?
Yeah.
Did he lose to him at all last year?
No.
I feel like he's just solved that puzzle.
I don't think so.
I think he solved that puzzle. Yeah, he lost to him at NCAAs 2 years ago, but since then, he's been better.
But I think every match is at least 1 point or overtime.
I know, but he
loses. So it's not like he's just running away.
Yeah.
So I think he's in that conversation.
Here's what I agree with that, but part of me is I think it's a horrible matchup with Wick and Chenzo. And for that reason, I'm I just don't see Wick ever beating that guy. Whereas maybe he could beat Marinelli. Marinelli has issues underneath at times that rear itself against someone as good as Wick, but with Chenzo, that guy doesn't get rid, and I just think he beats him.
That may be the case, but we don't know until they wrestle. And also, last year, Wick and Marinelli's matches 4-3 Marinelli at Midlands, 6-4 in the duel in Sun Victory, and 2-1 Marinelli at Big Tens. And if you remember, they literally just let Marinelli lay on bottom for 4 minutes.
Oh, they really did. That was pretty bad. Now, okay, I see you're for expanding this to a 4-person tier.
So, well, I would say to that, I see where Kyle's coming from, and I did struggle with that, putting those 4 guys together in one tier. But ultimately, I wanted to separate. You can call it tier 1 and tier 1.5, but just I looked at it going into this season. If you were putting money on who's going to win the NCAA championship, I think Chenzo and Marinelli would have slightly better odds than Wick and McFadden. Even though Marinelli has not placed higher, Wick has outplaced Marinelli both years. So if you're just talking about accolades or accomplishments, podium placements, clearly Wick has to be with Marinelli. But forward looking, I'm giving that slight edge, and reasonable minds may disagree, but that's how I had it.
How about
shots fired?
David McFadden. You're just separating because you want to separate. They belong in the tier. And then 2, how about David McFadden's only losses at 165 2 years ago was the Vincenzo Joseph 3-1 and Chance Marsteller. That's it.
It's
pretty good. David McFadden's good.
Oh, here we go.
He beat Evan Wick too. He beat Evan Wick.
Unbelievable. It's sickening. I'm sickened.
Man.
I think these guys have had enough variability in their performances that I think I'm ready to agree that should be a 4-person tier of tier 1 with Wick and McFadden included. Wick's outplaced Marinelli. McFadden pinned Marinelli. Feels like it all comes back to Marinelli.
He pinned Wick too in the CKLV finals.
Oh, that's right. He beat him in that scramble. Unbelievable.
This man is tier 1.
Tier 1.
All right, well, let's make a friendly wager right now. Future bet. Who do we think is going to be – who will outplace at NCAAs this year? I think Chenzo and Marinelli are going to outplace Wick and McFadden.
Oh, wow. The gauntlet.
Okay, but that's not what these tiers are about. It's not about placing it into the –
I think that's what the tiers are about. The tiers are about who's going to have a better year going next.
I'd be nervous about making that pick.
The tiers are about grouping peers, grouping guys that are like of similar skill that where you could see results where they're all kind of beating each other, I think.
Yeah, well,
like,
if it's just results, then there's no point in doing tiers. But if you
No.
want, yes.
no.
If you're talking about what the true talent level is and how they're going to perform in the future based on what their talent is now, then you have to be forward-looking and say what are the better odds are. But if you're just looking at accomplishments, then yeah, it's boring. Then we don't need to do it. Then those guys are all in the same tier.
I don't think it's just accomplishment. I think there's a lot of variables involved, and I would throw those two in there as well. Though I don't. In my heart of hearts, I would probably put. What'd you say? Oh Lord, Sion just.
Hey, Sion.
Oh no.
Sion doesn't know he's not on
What's
camera.
up?
Hey, welcome.
Sion's here. I'm not sure what's happening. What are you doing, Sion?
I'm crashing, man. You know, I just wanted to say hello to everybody.
Here,
How you been?
give the people some words.
I've been good.
you
Man, what's
inspire
up
us?
with that mustache, man?
What's up with your mustache?
I ain't got one.
Yeah, you do.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You can take a razor and shave off lots of hairs from your upper lip. That's what a mustache is.
All
All right, we're defining mustaches now.
right.
Hey,
Defining
Sion, you coming
tiers,
to the book
defining
club?
mustaches.
Sion, you coming to the book club?
Yes, I am coming to Christians-led Extreme Ownership Book Club. I am looking forward to this book.
You're in a book club?
You should have already read it, but
Well-
hey, I'm not gonna.
Well, I shouldn't have already read the whole book. I read the first 4 chapters.
That's
like
all
I'm
you have to have
supposed
read, just the first 4 chapters.
Me too.
First 4 chapters I've read.
Yeah, wow. There's more people in the book club than not in the book club in this room right now.
I didn't even know there was a book club.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Extreme
didn't either.
ownership, man,
Email
you
must have
know.
gone right to spam.
It's all about leadership, learning, bettering yourself. Why aren't you in that club?
I guess I'm already accomplished all those things.
Okay.
Wow,
Don't
that's
need it.
extreme ownership. All right, I have to own it right now. I've already done all those things.
All right. Cool. But
It does sound like a good read.
I'll catch y'all later.
Hey, thanks, Sion.
Thanks, Sion.
Good drop by. Sion Williams, Director of Operations.
Off he goes.
Who's our favorite Director of Operations right now? Maybe we shouldn't say. We shouldn't have favorites.
He's
Oh,
tier
that was
one.
a question?
in the company.
Yeah. So, all right, that was tier 1. Already a spicy start to 165. I love this weight. Then we've got Logan Massa, Isaiah White, Josh Shields, Shane Griffith, Joe Smith. Double shots fired at Demetrius Romero, who beat.
Wait, why is Joe Smith here?
Yeah, he should be up at 74. I also corrected the NCAA
Wait, he's-
rankings.
Yeah. Okay.
Was apparently Whitlake is cutting down to 65 and Joe Smith's going up to 74.
sounds
Although
like a
it's
blast.
Oklahoma State's lineup, so I'm imagining we're going to see many different variations of it throughout the season.
Yeah.
Yes. So okay, forget that. So I think that's a pretty good group. Although I think Steyer and Romero belong with those guys personally. That's just how I view them. I think they're all. I could see Steyer beating a Massa or a Griffith. I think those guys are all really good, and I think that's about the order I would put them in. But I think that's the group there.
I almost feel like there's a little separation between Shields and Griffith for some reason. That Massa White Shields group feels, I don't know, a little bit separate, and then the Griffith Romero Steyer group feels slightly separated to me.
As I'm looking at that group, if I'm looking for someone that's going to enter that next tier, I think it could be
Shane
Griffith.
Yeah, I think it could be.
Yeah.
So that's why I think he belongs in there. And certainly Isaiah White could, and Massa has been there. But, man, it's been like 2-3 years. We just haven't seen those guys reach those levels that with Isaiah that I think we've always just kind of believed he has. And with Logan, we haven't seen him really regain that freshman the freshman level results or whatever it is. He hasn't gotten back there.
But in any single match, like, he can, right? I mean, the Big Ten Marinelli win a couple years ago was super
Epic.
fun. He can. That's what I love about this weight class is Joseph Marinelli, Wick McFadden. Those guys, whether you call them one tier or two slightly separated tiers, those guys are all super good, but they all have vulnerabilities, which makes this weight class really exciting. And I could see Logan Massa, having a crazy match, the right match. He knocks one of these guys off. Isaiah White, I don't know. I mean, he had some really nice moments at NCAA's last year, but typically I don't know if his offense is there to beat some of these guys. But, like, he's in every match with Vincenzo. I mean, it's like razor thin every time.
Shane Griffith had a really tight match with Vincenzo Joseph.
Yeah, took him down.
Yeah.
I think
6-4. Scuffle last year.
Good pull on the score, Bracky. I like Griffith a lot. I think he's super talented. He was someone that I was like, how good is this guy going to be at the next level? Because he was so fundamental. I think he really developed a lot in that first year at Stanford, and they're doing a nice job. So I'm excited to watch him. I don't know. I could go either way with Romero and Steyer not being in that tier, but I just see them. I just know those matches are going to be super close with those guys.
Well, like the first tier, I struggled with that one too, and you can call it tier 1, 1.5, tier 2, and 2.5 with those guys. It came back to the injecting some human element into the not just looking at results and accolades. And I just have a little bit more faith in those guys ahead of Romero and Steyer, but they're both studs. And I agree with Bray. I echo that sentiment that this weight class rules. They're all ridiculously good athletes with wildly different styles. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a Steyer and a Romero are like two opposite ends of the spectrum. Wick and a guy like Vincenzo Joseph and Marinette, they're all different. Shane Griffith is very different than Josh Shields and Isaiah White. Mass is more on the Demetrius Romero side. And they've had some insane matches at CKLV.
Who's got the Lyle style of this group?
Wow.
That's a deep pull. I haven't heard about that in a while.
You guys need to watch the Lyle Style show. YouTube it. You will be around the 18th or 19th viewer of this show, but you will not be disappointed.
Between three of us on this, we're probably
at least 18, a quarter.
18 of those 18.
Yeah, that's true.
Target demo.
Yeah, for sure. And then
Demetrius Romero literally beat Logan Massa last year.
Yep.
Yeah, and Logan Massa basically tech-falled Romero as well in the same tournament.
Well, that was the first match, and then they made adjustments, and then he beat him.
Oh, now it's only the second match that matters.
Well, it shows there
that's
clearly.
Yeah, he made the proper adjustments.
Yeah, I would side with the guy that won the more recent than...
I would side when they were both fresh at the beginning of the tournament and hadn't seen that many other opponents yet.
Okay, now, Tier 5 is getting a little tough for me. Tier 6 is unspeakable. So Tier 5...
unspeakable.
Unspeakable. Well, I mean, unspeakable in terms of what could I possibly say? I don't know. I don't intimately know the results. I know these guys: Jesse Delavecchia, Andrew Fogarty, Thomas Bullard, Cale McCormick, Ebba Jarrell, Austin Matthews, Tanner Skidgel, Joseph Gunther, and Philip Canigliaro. I think... go ahead.
No, isn't Joey Gunther 174? I think.
It could be another guy that needs to be pulled out.
And don't ever put him on a list, ever, for
no
anything.
Lists ever.
Unless it's
how about a list of guys that Kyle doesn't want on lists?
Yeah, that'd be great.
I wish there was a list like
he
that.
tries to score negative wrestling points every wrestling match. I don't know why he wrestles. I really don't. He goes out there and he just stays in his stance. And I'm going to fight back against it this year. I tried to do it last year at Big Tens, and I'm just not putting up with it. It's ridiculous.
Have you reached your breaking point?
Yes, this is meltdown mode. We can't stand for this. It's setting wrestling back years.
What year? What if he comes out and starts majoring people?
Oh yeah, it's gonna light a fire under his rear.
You know what? I hope it does, because I can't stand it.
Wow.
I'm pulling up his wrestle stats. See how many garbage matches he had last year.
Man, there were some tough ones at Big Tens. We'll see. I could see Austin Matthews. I mean, who knows? He's had like health issues. This is his third team now, but he was like a top 10-ish guy, maybe even top 8 at some points in his career. If he's on point, I could see him entering the Steyer Romero kind of matches. I think he's the most talented guy of this group.
It would be really interesting for Northern Colorado if he is able to get the ball rolling for them. I mean, they're kind of famously in this like big rebuild phase. They're bringing in this monster recruiting class. Who knows if any of those guys are going to go right away? Sounds like maybe Alirez. I don't know. But if Matthews is able to provide some senior leadership for that team, I mean, that'd be really interesting. Just Northern Colorado in general. Although they've had a good guy at 165 the last few years as well. But I don't know. It could be a shot in the arm if he's able to crack through and get on the podium. And anybody that has the ability to wear guys out and score in the top position is always dangerous. So
you right. Okay. That's tiers unless Bracky's got some deep pulls for us.
No, I'm good. I'm looking at Joey Gunther's stats right now.
Oh man, still in there.
He's going in the Gunther deep dive. That's unfortunate.
This man won 7 matches last year, scoring 3 points or less.
It's called a talent.
It's called efficiency.
Yeah.
Look it up. Maybe you don't care about this planet, but efficiency is what's going to keep this planet around for another 30 years.
It's a replicable skill.
I'm hashtag done with him.
Now we know we got to move on.
wow.
He's hashtag done with Joey Gunther. Poor Joey. All right. We'll go to questions.
I'm sorry, but I'm not at the same time.
He's sorry, not sorry. He's hashtag done, and we're moving on to questions from friends. Thank you, friends, for all your great questions. So, James Stockhausen, thoughts on more Russian doping issues. So, quick cliff notes of this. There's whistleblowers on the Russian side that are basically spilling the beans on all the ways they've cheated and have provided WADA with the testing data, all the information. So, WADA is like, hey, you guys got to send us your information, send us your sheets or whatever, send us all your testing data. And like they have this like roadmap for like getting back on in good graces with the international sport community. And so they send the data and it doesn't match up what they have. So they're sending stuff that is clearly cooked so they don't look as bad, obviously. And WADA is like, hey, what is going on here? So more doping issues from the biggest cheaters international sport has ever seen. They are the worst. They only cheat. They love to cheat. They will never stop cheating, okay? It's time for WADA to just face Russia cheats. Now, I don't know what else there is to say about that. They're the biggest cheaters. There's nothing else to say. I don't know what next steps looks like. I think WADA will never, I think IOC, etc., they're not going to take the necessary steps. We saw in 2016 when they had the broad thing they said they were going to do, and they completely cowered, and they made it so basically everyone competed, and they just suspended the Paralympic team.
Yeah.
In a
Cowardly
stunning.
That's the ultimate, like, throw them under the bus move.
Yes.
And that's been the really frustrating thing with all of these. Anytime there's an increased effort to crack down on doping, whether it's Russia or whether it's the USOC or whatever, there's a scapegoat, and somebody gets thrown under the bus, and the real culprits, or at least the ones who are doing it at a systematic level, get off scot-free, and I mean, it's really frustrating. And so yeah, I mean, it kind of feels like when they talk about like banks being too big to fail, it feels like Russia is that, right? Like we can't have an Olympics without Russia. So
right. That's why I take the extremely cynical view of, if you read the articles that just came out, they have the WADA spokesperson at the end. He says everybody wants us to stop Russia from doing all this stuff, and all they can do is basically report. They're like a security guard. They're not a police enforcement or anything like that.
Yeah.
So they get the information. They recommend. They say, hey, they're completely out of compliance. But what you have is Russia wanting to compete, obviously, and they have leverage in certain respects. And the IOC and all these international bodies want to have Russia and their market and their audience and their athletes to make the competitions better. So you have both sides wanting to compete, and they're going to figure out a way to do it. And Russia right now is testing how much they can get away with, and they'll figure out what they can and they can, and eventually they'll compete, and there'll be, some level of cheating going on the entire time.
And obviously it impacts wrestling more than a lot of other sports in that, half the field is former Russian athletes most years. Maybe not half the field, but a significant percentage of athletes in the field come from Russia.
Certainly the number of contenders is 50% Russia or ex-Russian.
That's right. And so if a doping culture infiltrates Russia, then logic would serve that it infiltrates a lot of these other former Russian athletes as well. And so it just becomes this incredibly rampant. And I mean, in many ways, I think as wrestling fans, if we could know immediately, you could flip a switch and you would know who's dirty and who's clean, and everybody who's dirty is out. all of a sudden it's a very, very different sport. It's a very different world championships. But I mean, how do you get it clean, right? Like, how do you solve that problem?
The tough part is the testing costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
And WADA doesn't have like a budget. Nobody funds them. They kind of try to exist on their own. And so they make every country have their own little subsidiary of WADA, except then you put it in the hands of the countries that are trying to cheat. So then they become tools to help those countries cheat rather than tools to help stop them.
Total tools.
And then we saw with the Icarus documentary about the whole 2016
Shout out Gregory.
And 2014
Stay strong, man.
Sochi scandal. They were cheating a ridiculous amount.
Where's my man's Gregory at?
Yeah, Radchenko is still fleeing for his life.
I hope so.
They will try to kill him if he.
They are definitely currently, as we speak, trying to kill this man.
But that documentary and all the information that came out there showed that all the ex-Soviet countries and the former Russian athletes that are competing elsewhere would basically use Radchenko and his lab as kind of a service. They would pay him money, and then they would help clean their blood samples and that kind of stuff, and cheat all the different ways.
Yeah.
So fun times.
So, following that question, Bracky, do you have a doping take? You love steroids.
No, if Spay hadn't brought it up, I was just going to encourage everyone to watch Icarus on Netflix. It's crazy. And I mean, it was literally being ordered from the top, from Putin to do all of this.
And that's the major pushback from Russia is they don't want to admit that it's state-sponsored when clearly it was.
Correct. Yeah, it's a wild documentary, but you will somehow love Gregory.
He's great.
Yeah.
Good dude.
Yeah.
Hopefully he's okay. Which brings to the next. So, someone asked me if I thought like Sidakov was on steroids or maybe Sadulayev, and I kind of was like, I don't think so. And so Nathan Stoller asked, why don't you think Russians were on PEDs? The country was banned from last Olympic Games. Not really. IAAF banned Russia again over PEDs. Well, I don't know. Maybe I know that just because you're on PEDs doesn't mean you will look like super jacked and like whatever. Like I know, doping and cycling, there's very different ways to cheat. But I just don't think Sidakov fits the description. I don't know. He doesn't look like a guy to me that is enhanced. I thought Godoyev was. I think Boltakayev definitely was. We were saying Boltakayev, as soon as he's on this run, is like, hello, this guy, he's on the stuff. Everyone knows it. It was just like, oh, he's the what was the nickname they gave him? The God of Thunder. No, dude. He was the god of the syringe, okay? He was synthetic. Everyone knew it. And then ultimately he finally tested positive. But it was the most obvious thing. This guy was small, completely mediocre, and at like 28 years old, now he's the best wrestler in the world? No, he was not. It doesn't work that way. Yeah. He was a total monster, right? So you can just kind of tell. And that's not scientific. It's just my gut instinct. My gut instinct was right with Boltakayev. And I think I look at Sidakov, I look at how he wrestles. I don't think he's a power-based wrestler. I don't think he's particularly, it just doesn't stand out to me any more than any other wrestler does. So he certainly could be. I know that is not an exonerating thing, and I know that there's things he could be doing that is enhancing him that are maybe more unseen, but he just doesn't fit the description for me. I don't think, and truly, there aren't many Russians that I saw that I was like, this guy's enhanced. Like Rashidov, he's probably the most powerful, like explosive dude they have. But Sadulayev, he's been doing this since 2014. He's great. There's no PEDs for perfect position for 6 minutes straight. There is no combination of pills and injections that can make you be in this. There are some things that can help, but the things that Sadulayev does.
Perfect practice makes perfect.
There it is. Not
the Bray method.
Not PEDs. So that's why I say that. And I say, Russians are the biggest cheaters ever. And if I found out every single one of their world teamers were on steroids, I guess I wouldn't be all that surprised. But I don't know. They just don't fit the description, my made-up description. It's not necessarily I'm not saying you should think they're all clean. That's just my belief.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that they're all clean. But you're right. You don't look at them and you're like, oh my God, like these guys are definitely on the gimmick. But another thing too that I wanted to say is usually the cheaters are ahead of the test. Like they are a couple steps ahead. So whatever.
And it's why you
that's
can't
worth.
do the everybody gets tested before they get their medal or whatever. It's because it takes so much time, and because now they're figuring out what they were actually even on back in 2012.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason why Tamizov lost his medal is because they were like, oh yeah, we should also be testing for this thing in this way, and then they have to go through every single test or every single urine sample, every blood sample, and it takes time and money, and no country wants to get caught, so they're not like eager to fund WADA to test them to have their medal stripped. So that's the problem, is the enforcement doesn't have a lot of money and doesn't have a lot of resources to actually do what seems to make sense if you were just thinking of it linearly.
Yeah. Okay, that's I remember last quad, or the year leading up to the PEDs were a huge topic of discussion the entire time, and I imagine it'll be similar for this year, especially as Russia's ramping up, it's seemingly, and they're up to their old tricks, which aren't even old tricks. It's just their state of being. Michael DeMoss, if JB were to lose a spot to Dake in 2020, does he continue his career or call it quits? Man, I don't know. Kind of feels like 2020 is just like what he has chosen. I mean, I think it'll depend how it looks if he loses to Dake. I think at that point, all right, so if he loses to Dake will medal, right? Very possibly win. I would probably pick him to win 74. So if that happens, and then you look at the path back to the team for Jordan Burroughs, unless he says, okay, I want to go up to 79 or something, which I don't see, but maybe. Is he going to want to go through all that again? I think he's probably ready for it to be done. He talks about the longevity of his career. 2011 to 2020 is a long time to be doing this, and he clearly has other interests. He talks about them often. He wants to start his own club. He wants to move back east. I think he would never train. He said he would never train anywhere but Lincoln, Nebraska. So if that's true, and this guy wants to move back east, is he going to want to say, okay, I'm going to stay here and keep doing this thing another 4 years in Lincoln, where, he loves training there, but he obviously he wants to be home, and his wife's from New York as well. So I don't know. I'm trying to get inside Jordan Burroughs' head, which is probably stupid, but that's why I think he probably goes out that way. And he goes out knowing he gave it all he had, and hey, I'm no longer the best in the world. At least he would have that knowledge. Whereas I think what is more interesting is if you go out in 2020 and he makes a team and he wins the Olympics, I think then it's harder to hang it up. And one thing I always remember Cale Sanderson said in 2011 after he didn't win, and he's like, you always wonder, or like he kind of always wondered if he had used all the gifts that he had been given.
Yeah.
Right? And did you get the most out of yourself? And that always kind of stuck with me. And so if Cale thinks that way, you would have to imagine that Cale and these great individuals, they definitely think differently. And would Jordan have this in the back of his mind? It's like, man, I just did this. Why would I not keep it going? Or maybe he takes a year, and then, around 2022, you kind of start ramping back up, and then 23, you make the team. In 24, you try to go out again. And you kind of see this with like foreigners more so than you do in America. And in America, it's like you're on the trajectory until you retire, and then you're Tony Ramos and Logan Stevens, and you're like, I'm done. I retire, right? Whereas I could see him maybe taking time off. So I don't know what it means. I'm curious what you guys think would happen if Jordan wins or loses next year.
It feels like the sun would never shine again, and we would all be sad for the rest of our lives.
I know.
I don't know. That is that's an impossible question, because I do not think the way that Jordan Burroughs thinks. I'm pretty sure, mostly sure. But I mean, he definitely does seem like he still has gas in the tank. If he wanted to go, I think he could, but I don't know. I don't know that he does. I think this is it. I think 2020 is the end of the line.
I do too.
Yeah, I'm with Bray. I think he's done if he doesn't win, or if he wins and goes and wins the Olympics, go out on top.
Dude,
for sure.
If he gets a point against Sidakov in the Olympic finals with 1 second left and wins, and That'd be just
I know.
amazing.
Because that's that sixth.
Yeah.
Then
And
he
the two,
has
and the
six.
two Olympic.
Yeah.
2 Olympic titles, plus quite a few world medals. Beyond that, the silver and 2 bronzes. Or no, 3 bronzes. 3 bronzes, 6 golds. He's that's a legacy.
Yeah.
That's something to be proud of.
Sure.
Something you can hang your hat on.
That's right. Thank you, Kyle. I knew you had my back there. Does Gaji Magomedov drop to 74 next year? Chances he beats out Sidikov and whoever else. I think the guy with the best chance to beat Sidikov is our friend Davey Bayev. But that being said, knowing the Russians' process, as we can call it, they just watched this guy beat Chamizo and Burroughs Chamizo back-to-back 2 years in a row. The amount of things that would have to happen for Sidikov to not make the team, I think, are immense. And honestly, if they gave him the Sadulayev treatment from 2016, I wouldn't be all that surprised. You know who, and that's another thing. It's like that the Iranians kind of look at this this way. It's like, you proved you can do the thing, right? Therefore, I mean, you think our process is like really rewards doing the thing. Russia, it's even more so, right? For him to have done it twice and knowing that's what Chamizo's going to be on the team, or Burroughs is possibly going to be on the team, I think it's going to be Sidikov, and not just because he's better, but because he did the thing the last 2 years.
He's got to be such a hero for Russia. I mean, yeah, that guy is. There's no way, right? There's no way they pull him off the team. I think he'll have close matches with those guys, and could potentially even lose a match to one of those guys. But I don't see any way that anybody else is on that team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they do a lot to protect him. We'll see. That's why I was hoping Russian nationals would be earlier than later, but we'll all just have to wait to see where everybody goes, how they do it there, and that'll determine. I think you could see a thing where a guy like Sidikov doesn't participate in Russian nationals, say he's hurt, or he will say he's hurt, or the coaches will say you're hurt or whatever, and then they'll send whoever wins Russian nationals Sidikov somewhere, like an international tournament. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean he didn't participate in Russian nationals this year, and then they just had like a special wrestle off between him and Kurbana Dadbadaliyev, and he
nice.
The only points that happened in the match were off camera, right? So yeah, I don't know. I don't see them keeping him off the team anyway.
Okay, do we match up? I think I referenced this, but do we match up better with Russia if you condense down to just the Olympic ways? I think we actually do. Prediction on Connell's year. Kyle Connell, 197 for Penn State. If I knew, I'd tell you. The guy, he needed a wild card to get into NCAAs, where he proceeds to bomb the 1 seed and then beat him again and place 3rd after losing to unknown names, Google losses, if you will. So I don't know. And then he got hurt and missed an entire year, basically. Now he's coming back. So on the one hand, it's like, who knows? On the other hand, he's at Penn State, where the track record for success for good wrestlers is really good. So I don't know. I think if he's healthy, he could win a title. He's clearly the number 1 guy is Colin Moore, right? And we know how that has fared historically for Connell. So I'm with the Penn State factor makes me bullish on Connell coming into this year.
Yeah, looking forward. Hopefully he's healthy. I mean, that's what. Anytime there's a unknown, it's like I just want guys to be healthy and wrestle at their best. And we haven't seen Kyle Connell in over a year wrestle that way. So
one thing that's really interesting, I mean, we did a flow film on him, and it's great. Check it out. But there kind of was some subtext in there from the Kent State staff that I think at times maybe it was challenging for Connell to kind of embrace the culture, like the kind of wrestling lifestyle and culture of that team. And, you wonder at a bigger, much more competitive program like Penn State, does he have similar problems? And if he does, and they have a stable full of these studs, are they patient with him, and do they really bend over backwards to make sure he's successful, or is it a situation where, if he has some of those struggles that he did at Kent State, it's easier for them to just say, you know what, we've got Beard, let's slide him in instead. So I do wonder about that, and I don't know the ins and outs of all of the some of the complexities, and he's super vulnerable in that film. I don't want to suggest that he's that he doesn't hang in a D1 environment or something, but there does seem to at least be some evidence to suggest that could be a question.
There's definitely questions.
I actually think the Penn State environment will probably be better for him. I think not that they have like a loosey like goosey way about going things, but it's much more laid back and fun, I guess, if you want to say, than most D1 rooms. And I think it's going to suit him well, but still, what's the guy going to be on the mat? You look at his seasons, and his records are 19-6, 27-8, and then 30-11. His year that he went on his run, but he also, that year he went 30-11. He had 2 losses to Aaron Naples, shout out Bobcats, and a couple other handful of just not good losses.
Yeah.
So does the Penn State room keep him at the level he was at the last time we saw him? Or does he come back down to earth a little bit?
Yeah, it'll be. I mean, obviously for Penn State, it's huge. It's a huge factor, and I think they're going to need him to score points. This team race is going to be uber close. I'm excited for it. I think with that, it's probably go time. 9:35 in the AM here deep in the heart of Texas, the capital city. Thank you. Great clap. We will be back. I don't know who's going to be on the show Thursday. It's a real dealer's choice. I don't know the flight schedules of Nomad and Willie. So hopefully they get back safe and sound. I don't know. This could be the same routine. We may have the boys could be back in town. But we're ready to go, Caleb, if you want to play us out there.
I got a couple things.
Brecky has a few items, guys.
One, I put the poll up, and it has just over 1,000 votes. And 97 kilos is winning with 69%.
Wow, very nice.
Wow.
Yeah, extremely nice. So that means
Nice
86 has 31%. And
Great
then
subtraction.
I also want to apologize. Well, it tells me on the screen, but I want to apologize for last Thursday. I promised Alien Hour, and then I wasn't even on the show because I forgot about our marketing offsite.
Were you abducted?
That's on me, guys.
You were abducted by the marketing department.
I really literally was. But I promise you this Thursday I will have proof that aliens are real, and CP will have to admit it.
Wow.
Whoa.
That's a tease.
That is quite a tease.
Yes.
I'm going to be tuning in Thursday. Contractually, I will be. But I'm also going to be excited about it. It's going to be great.
Good.
Okay, thanks. Still, maybe the music's playing. For all I know, it is. Sometimes it plays and I don't hear it, and I talk, and then the show just ends.
There it is.
Oh, there we go. Got it.
Babe, put the glasses on.
Oh, wow. Wow. Spay in full effect. The Bugle Boy polo shirt.
It's Nautica, thank you.
I love it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. 409 episodes of FloWrestling Radio Live. We will be back next Thursday. As promised, Kyle Brackey will not lie to you. He's a man of his word, and he will give you the Alien Hour. Now, he will not probably convince me of aliens, but other than that, his word is true. We'll be back talking a little more about rankings and who knows what else. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.